going on, everybody, and welcome back. So in this video we're going to be beginning the new project, which is the long-term goal of turboing this Avalanche. So this isn't my preferred vehicle, but this thing is such a solid vehicle. We're looking at about 200,000 mile build here. It's had a transmission replaced probably about 60 or 70,000 miles ago, maybe 80, but relatively fresh transmission in this thing. It's a nice rebuild. And it's pretty much stock other than the wheels and the spacers and intake and exhaust, and that's pretty much it for me. It's just stock stuff, which is what I've usually rocked with. So I do have some plans for this thing. I would like to go turbo with this, and I know it is a daily, but I'm going to try to see if I can make a turbo daily that's fun, reliable, and still just a good all-around vehicle. I'll probably rock the 4L60 for a little while. Hopefully I can keep from blowing it up. But yeah, the turbo from that last video that you guys saw, that guy there is the one that's going to go on this, that big boy. So hopefully we can make this a fun little unit. I'd like to tune it on HP tuners, which I already have coming. So that's the first order of business here, is we got to put a wideband on this thing so I can start logging air fuels. And I just want to drive around and see what the air fuels look like, and I like to have a gauge in there so I can see, and as well as tune with the HP tuners. I want to log that as well, so hopefully we can get that logging working with a 5-volt reference, but I'll show you guys all that stuff. For right now, I think I might just weld a bung in to make it easy, and then something else I'm going to do coming up is a little electric fan conversion. As you can see, this is an 03. It does have the clutch fan setup, which is like huge in the engine bay, and it takes up a lot of room. I can show you on my brother's 2005 Tahoe here. He has the electric fan setup. You can see how much room there is here. It's ridiculous. The electric fans are they're so small. There's like no shroud here. There's so much more room. The motor looks tiny in here. First things first though, we got to do wideband and then electric fan setup, which I got to get at the junkyard. So there's a couple ways to do the fan setup, but I already have the 34-inch radiator in this, so I should be all set to just throw the fan shroud on, and then I just need to get the factory relay box as well as the factory ECU pins that'll pin into my ECU. Since this is 03 to 04, I should be able to just turn it on in the ECU and not have any issues, or the PCM rather. So yeah, big project coming up, but I'm ready for it, and I think it's gonna be pretty sweet. So I already started ordering some parts, and I'm gonna start, like I said, by putting that wideband on. So I'm gonna try to find a good location for it. I'm gonna move the truck around and get it up by the welder, see if I can drill a hole and put a bung, and then we'll be all set. So I have the wideband set up right here. I'll pretty much will only buy AEM wideband stuff. I think that they just make the best in the business. Some people may dispute, they may go innovative, but obviously you got to go with a reputable brand when you're reading your air fuels. You don't want to blow your stuff up, so you need it to read correctly. And I've never had a problem with my AEM. They use a Bosch sensor. I had one Bosch sensor go bad on me on this car, but I think it's probably because of the way I treat it. I did all kinds of stuff like heat the sensor up and leave the key on like forever, just leave it on heating. And I've done all sorts of things like you're supposed to start the car, and the condensation, you really shouldn't heat up the sensor and then start the car and all the condensation gets on the sensor. You can damage it that way. There's a lot of different ways that I damage the sensors, but I just see it as a wear item. I'm not gonna try to preserve my sensor. They're like a $70 or $80 sensor. You're just gonna have to pick one of these up once every couple of years. It depends on how much you drive the car and how much you beat it up, but you may go through sensors. It's just part of having a turbo car. I've only had one go bad on me in the entirety of me having this car turboed, and I put that thing through a lot. I burned oil through that one when I first had my oil burning issue. I ran it super fat rich, like 8.0, 9.0, just when I was learning how to tune. Like I put that sensor through hell, and now I'm on a new sensor. Everything's been good. I had issues where it cut out, but I really can't blame Bosch or AEM for that. I think I probably torched that sensor. I'll be the first to tell you that I'm not a pro, and learning things, sometimes you do break stuff, and I think I may have prematurely taken that sensor out. So we'll see how long this one lasts on a solid, nice tune-up here. Anyway, I got one here for the new project, which is, like I said, the Avalanche. So I have all the parts that I'm going to need here. This is the sensor. There's a wideband bung here. I have another bung that I want to put in. I had one lying around, so I'm just going to save that one for my turbo kit later on. But this right here is going to go into our Y pipe right now. Eventually it'll go in the down pipe on the turbo. And then This plugs into it, runs up to the gauge right here, and then this is going to go into the back of the gauge, and this is where we'll actually wire it in to give us all of our outputs here into our HP tuners, as well as all the tuning software. If we wanted to run this into the ECM, we could do that too, but I'm just going to plug this thing right in, and we'll just run the gauge for now until we get HP tuners, and then we will figure out how to wire all this stuff in. So I just want to kind of monitor the stock air-fuel ratio. I have a tune in it right now, so I kind of want to see what does the tuner do. Does it wake any of that stuff up? And you know, what gains could we possibly see from a little tune by adding some fuel in. I just want to see how lean they have this thing running on the stock tune here, and we're going to see that pretty soon. So that's what's next for us. So we're going to go ahead and pull the Y pipe out of this thing, which I already started doing over there. Most of the bolts are coming out nice and easy because I already had the headers off of this thing. I put shorties on it. So we're going to go ahead and rip the Y pipe off, and I'll show you guys where I'm going to put the sensor, and then we'll get it wired in the truck. So what I decided to do is not fully pull the whole Y pipe out, just because I don't feel like doing it. It's so much easier on the lift. I thought I'd be able to snake it out of here, but I don't think I will be able to without pulling the transmission cross member, which I don't really want to mess with. You know, I guess it's not that big of a deal. I just have to support the transmission, take the mounts off the 215s that go up to the mount, and then take off the 422s, and then this whole thing will fall down, and then I should be able to take it right out. But that's just, I don't even know, it's just too much work. So I think I'm just going to try to drill a hole right here on the ground and give it a nice little weld here on the ground, and then just stuff it back up in there. It kind of fell down on me when I unbolted the exhaust, so I hope that I didn't bang up the O2 or the catalyst too bad up in here. It should be fine. I think they've endured worse. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and drill the hole that I marked out here, and then try to weld the wideband up in there, and maybe I'll tack it and then test fit it just to make sure it's not going to interfere with anything on the way up, and then we should be good to put both of them back in. I took that one out so I could weld and not damage the other sensor, even though I might have already cooked it, hopefully not. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and cut that hole out. So I'm gonna try to take a drill bit and coat it in grease so we don't get any shavings going down into the cat. Shouldn't be too bad, but if we do end up getting some shavings, it might rattle around in there. Hopefully not. We'll always clean it out later, but that's just something I'm gonna try to avoid. So I got my drill bit all greased up. I'll put you guys over here. Hopefully you can see process. I'm going to try to go at the correct angle. I'm going to end up hitting it with a step drill bit afterwards, but I think this is probably pretty good here. Alright, so we got some shavings in there. I'm sure some shavings went through, but it shouldn't be the end of the world. So we're going to go ahead and get the step drill bit, start drilling it bigger, and hopefully we'll get our nice wideband set up in there. Hopefully it's not too close to the other narrowband there and blocks the signal or anything like that. I guess I could maybe rotate a little bit. We'll see how it goes. So, you're not allowed to make fun of my welds, but I did get the wideband welded in. I got the bung all welded. Not the prettiest, but it is sealed all the way around. I doubled over a couple of them just to make sure of it. I turned the heat up on the other side. The other side looks a little bit better, but it's definitely going to work out. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the top O2 in, and then throw the wideband in, and then jam this guy back up in the slot, tighten everything all down, and then I'll be ready to do all the wiring stuff to hook up the gauge. So I did get this thing all run. Hopefully you guys can see. I hope that's a good enough angle. I got it all up in there and it works perfectly. The angle's great. It seems like the sensor's nice and tight in there. So I got everything all set here, and I put it all back together. Exhaust is all straight, basically like I was never in here, and I plugged all the O2s back in as well. So I ran the wire up, the cord that comes off of it, and it's coming out right up here. And so I got him run over here. I'll zip tie him somewhere along the back there to the ground strap. But I have this, and I want to try to come in through the firewall with the end of this cable. So that is my next step. I was setting up my pillar pod. It looks like it fits nicely over the top, but I can still get it in and out. So I think I'm just gonna find a good spot here and screw it to the other one. And it does obstruct view just a little bit, not too bad though. But you want to be able to see your gauges, so I think it's nice. And I don't like gauges all over the dash or in the console. I want to be able to look at the road and look at the gauges, road and gauges. I think that's very crucial for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing on. They're like $40 for these. They're so cheap. I feel like it's just junk, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm gonna make it work, and we're gonna go ahead and put the gauges in. So I did order a glow shift pillar pod, which these are decent quality. They're not really not the best, honestly, guys. They're like in my opinion, but whatever. It's fine. It'll look good. It'll work out. In the end, they always look halfway decent once you get them in the car, but they are pretty cheap. But should look like something like this up in the corner. Sorry about the mess. I gotta clean the garage for sure. But yeah, right now I gotta drill a hole for my speaker. My tweeter is right here, so I'd like to retain that today with this install. So I'm gonna do that first. Got a hole saw for that. I'm gonna drill that out like the stock one. They just fit right over, and then you drill 7 30-second holes and then jam those little tabs in there, and then they hold everything together. And so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to drill holes in the factory pillar in here so I can run my wires inside of the factory pillar, because there isn't enough room to run them inside of this gauge pod. So I always backdoor them into this area, and then I can run them down because there's quite a few wires. There's 2 wires coming off of the air-fuel ratio gauge there, the AEM. You can see on the back here we got 2 different plugs, and then there's going to be another plug as well as a vacuum line coming off of the boost gauge. So, you know, all that stuff will come into play. But I do want to set up all sorts of temperatures. I think I may try to set up some sort of transmission temperature gauge on my lower here on the bottom, because that is important to me too. I want to try to not grenade the 4L60, so I got to keep an eye on its temperatures. So yeah, I'm gonna try to throw those 3 gauges in there. I already have a oil pressure gauge in the truck, so that shouldn't be a problem. So it's just whatever else I can find here to put in here. So I might get the tranny temp gauge coming at some point, but I don't need that for a while. So I think just for now, I'm gonna do the top 2 and I'll throw it on. I'll address the rest later, but for now, that's what it's gonna be. I'm gonna go ahead and drill those holes for the wires in the backs of these gauges, and then drill that hole too and get this thing all customized. Run my wires, and I'll show you guys what we're working with. So I have progressed to a point where I'm ready to start doing all the wiring. Hopefully I can get it wired today so I can test it out. That is my goal, and when I drive to work tomorrow, I'll be able to watch a little bit of air-fuel ratio action. So what I got here is, you know, the air-fuel gauge is mounted. I got the boost gauge also mounted because that came, so I figured I might as well put it in at the same time. I can watch the engine vacuum, see where it normally sits at, and just sort of monitor those types of things. HP tuners did show up as well, so I gotta get that set up, but that'll be a different, definitely a different video. This is just a couple of gauges here, so you know, nothing crazy, but it is the first step, and I can go ahead and start watching stuff. So what I did was extend these 3 wires here. I never use the headlight dimmer. When you put the headlights on, it'll go ahead and dim the gauges, but I rock the headlights on a lot, so I just leave this out because I don't want the gauges to dim. So I just leave them full brightness. Never bothers me really. So yeah, this guy right here is set up with you know, this one is our constant power, this one's our switched, and this one is our ground. So I extended all the wires. I'm gonna go ahead and round them inside and put my tweeter back in, and then we should be able to install this. I installed it prematurely and I broke all the clips getting them out. They really don't set it up so that you can reuse these clips. They just break, so that was kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'll find something else to stick in there hopefully, now that I got these big holes in there. Maybe I'll just do a little zip tie action. But yeah, it is what it is. So now that I got this all set up, I'm going to go ahead and wire this down here. I'm going to see if I can make a junction here of the constant powers, the switched, and the grounds, and route all that stuff together, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with the serial stuff once we get HP tuners set up on for the wideband there. So you guys can see I got this thing all wired up. I even got the vacuum line routed out into the engine bay right here, except it is not long enough to get to any source of vacuum. This port over here, or like a dummy nipple, break that off. That's actually a bleeder nipple, so I think I'm going to break those tabs off and go ahead and cut that, and then try to make a nipple out of that and go ahead and stick a line on there, just because there's nowhere else good to tap on. Everything sounds pretty good. I may have a slight exhaust leak down there. I may have to tighten one of the flanges or something. We'll see if it goes away once it warms up. Hopefully it does, but the sensor's heating up right now. Yeah, 14.5, 14.3. So our mixture's reading pretty good. It's leaning us out and then kind of pulling us back. And so that's pretty good. Boost gauge, like I said, is not hooked up, but we got all the different colors because it is a glow shift. So pretty sweet looking. Hopefully it is accurate and what we want. And yeah, that's about it, guys. So I'll tell you guys how I wired it down, which is just a nice little 10 mil. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then I had the AEM wideband. They only want a switched power, so I ran the switched up to this block up here, this fuse block. You guys can see on the fuse block up here there's a bunch of different pins, and basically what you want to do is take a multimeter and stick one end on ground and multimeter some of the pins that stick out. And if you can get the pins that are positive and switched, there are some that are on there that are positive and switched, and you just want to tap onto those. And that's how I usually run these gauges. They're fine. These are, I believe, fused under the fuse block in the inside or something like that. If they're not, it is what it is. I never had a problem. Hack job, but that's the way I run it. So we're looking pretty good here. 14.8, 14.7, 14.9, 14.6. So it's right around where it needs to be. So that's pretty good. I'm excited about that. I might take this thing for a little test drive just to see what the air fuels are, and you know, just putz around a little bit and see what's going on. But that's about it here. I'm gonna hopefully hook up the boost gauge once I have some vacuum line that's long enough, and then we can see exactly what the manifold vacuum is. So next step, we gotta get rid of this clutch fan assembly. We gotta get an electric fan. So I'm gonna be heading to the junkyard next weekend, hopefully, to get this electric fan whole setup underway. But for right now, that should be it. And this thing seems like it's running pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut the hood. Yeah, sounds pretty good. So I just went for a little ride, and the air fuel gauge was reading 14.7 pretty much all the way until I got into the throttle a little bit, and then I got into the PE mode, power enrichment, and then it went down to like 12.6 or 12.7, which is awesome. So that means that the tune-up that I have in here, which is not stock, it's actually a tune-up that's in here from a tuner that I have. Actually, it's a Diablo Sport tuner. So I'll show you guys. It's the Trinity. So I have it somewhere, but I'm gonna have to take that tune off of it before I go ahead and do the HP tuners. But I was thinking about maybe just downloading that tune off of the car first, just to see what that particular tuner did. I got some plastic shavings on here, but I want to see what that particular tuner did to the air fuels and all the stuff, and then I want to see exactly what the stock tune's like, compare those, and then compare what I'm going to do to it. And I guess we'll be able to do all the comparisons and do all the tuning and all that stuff. So I'm pumped. I can see air fuels now. I know what the truck's doing, which is pretty cool. For the most part, it's just going to rock 14.6. I guess you don't even really need a truck too much. I mean, you don't even need an air fuel gauge in a truck that's an LS, because these things, we really just run them off of the O2s. With the Honda, I don't run it off the O2s like that, but I think I might on this thing, just to keep things, you know, doing the best gas mileage and running like factory for the most part. I think that's a pretty good way to do it. Just let it run right off the O2s. So based on that, I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. In the next video, I'll show you guys everything all hooked up here, and hopefully we can get the boost gauge working. Anyway, hopefully you guys are enjoying. I will speak with you guys shortly on this project, but we just got to do a little bit of learning, a little R&D for now. Hopefully you can see me, but yeah, peace out, guys. Stay tuned, buy some merch, and hopefully you guys like LS stuff, because we got some LS stuff coming. It's going to be fun. The Honda stuff's not going to stop, but we will be getting into some of this V8 stuff, because always been a big V8 guy, and I think we can make a lot of good power on this setup. And I got a lot of options. Just knowing how to do what I can do, especially with GM and stuff like that, I think it'll be pretty fun. So we can do all sorts of tuning, and yeah, maybe get some of you guys into some V8 stuff too, because it's definitely fun. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and stay tuned for more content. Peace.